Hello. Welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast. The transfer window is in full flow. Who will stay? Who will go? We will give you blow by blow in our weekly podcast show. Here we are. It's transfer time again. And I'm here with two people. I'll go, of course, to my left. As always, go to my left first. Charlotte is here with us. Charlotte, how are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. It's a bit of a weird one because obviously we just spoke off air for rumours about Richard O'Donnell leaving, so that's sad times for Rochdale, but I'm all good. And I just wanted to mention as well, I've not got my medal on because I think my little boy, last time I saw it, he had it on, so I think he could be in his room now and he's fast asleep, so I'm not disturbing him. But I went to Rochdale Ladies under 10s. They had their presentation yesterday and it was so good. I got to hand them the medals and they gave me my own medal as well. So
wow.
I hopefully will have it on next time. But I just wanted to thank them. It was so good. Really, really good.
That's awesome. Hopefully your medal will turn up and you can celebrate with all of them.
How are you as well? I forgot to ask, how are you?
No, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. It's a Monday and we've all got through it, so that's a start. Very tired today, just lazy, feeling lazy, but not now. I've pepped myself up on a Corsten apple press. Other apple drinks are available, but we are ready. We are ready to go. It's not just me and Charlotte today. We have a special guest with us. Someone may recognise him from our All About Tottenham episode, and he's come on to talk transfer with us. It's the man himself. It's Billy, known as Hold My Hand. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to talk about all those transfers, and I hope Richard O'Donnell stays for you, Charlotte.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Should we start there? Because it is always, we always talk about, everyone gets excited at transfer windows, and there is a lot of that, and you hear names and stuff, but you're also under threat of your favourite players, aren't you? And the players that you love and not wanting to, it pulls at the heartstrings, doesn't it? I mean, Charlotte, you mentioned it in the past, Rochdale players going, and I think you've always said never love a loan signing was always the other thing.
Yeah, not last season, the season before, we had a loan player called Corey O'Keefe, and we fell in love with him. Then we ended up signing him in January, but only on a 6-month contract. So it was a weird one. You kind of were expecting him to go in the summer. And obviously when he did, it's like double heartbreak because we fell in love with this loan player. He went back, teased us. We signed him on a 6-month contract and then he left us again. So it was double heartbreak, but nothing will ever compare to when Grant Holt left. When Grant Holt left Rochdale, and I tweeted about, I did a TikTok actually and put it on Twitter and I tagged him in it, and it was a good few years ago. Now it must be like 10 plus years ago, but I am still heartbroken.
The heartbreak is still real.
Yeah, I'm not over it and it will always be there. Touches a nerve.
touches a nerve. That does, touches a nerve. And we welcome Chris is in the chat with us as today. Mentioned, I think personally a good move for Rod. We were talking about this off pod. We understand it, but shame we losing our player of the season. It's not official. You never know, but it's seeming quite likely, isn't it? Billy, of course, you are a Tottenham fan. And so you've lost some players in the past. Who's the one that's torn your heartstrings the most?
There's two. So for me, growing up, it was Jurgen Klinsmann leaving. He was my favourite player. I had his number on the back of my shirt when I was a kid playing striker as well. So when he left, I was heartbroken as a 8-9-year-old. And then Berbatov more recently leaving because I had him at the back of my shirt. It's the last two players I've had at the back of my shirts have left. So
honestly, I feel like I was exactly the same. I cursed them players, but the only good thing I can take from it is he went on to like better clubs.
It's something just to soothe the soul with the heartbreak of the move. It is tough to let players go. And we're saying a few more people coming in. Join us in the chat. Simon says, "Hi Simon, nice to see you this evening." Hi guys, big mistake falling in love with a lone player. Shah, speaking from experience as well. And hello to Lisa in the chat. And hello as well to Heather is here too. Do tell us, guys, in the chat who was the one that broke your heartstrings when they left your club. For me, I think it was Paul Scholes, and Scholesy had to he didn't go anywhere, but he had to hang up. That was heartbreaking. But then he came back. He came back 6 months later on the eve of an FA Cup tie, and I've never been more excited. I mean, it was 36-year-old Paul Scholes, which was slightly different, but still Paul Scholes. So that was hard. That was hard for me to take. But yeah, transfers going. But what about transfers that have happened? Transfers that have happened this week. And should we start with Ilkay Gundogan? Ilkay Gundogan's been a big one. The Manchester City move to Barcelona. Billy, what do you make of the Gundogan move?
I feel like it's perfect timing for him. He's won everything at Man City. There isn't anything else he could do. He could have stayed one more year, maybe won the Super Cup, but I mean, it's the Super Cup. I think he wanted a change as well. Like his family wanted to move, so I think it works out really well. He'll fit Barcelona's systems well. He's a very, very experienced player, a winner, and he brings a lot to that Barcelona dressing room, especially with some of the young players that they've got in there.
It's a good mix, isn't it, for him to go? As you say, Manchester City do always seem to move a player on at the right time. And Gundogan has been at the peak. He's peaked at the end of the season. In the last couple of seasons have been massive in the pivotal games for them. There's been a real sort of go-to, and I think massive for them in the dressing room. Always difficult to replace, but Manchester City do seem to find a way. I mean, Charlotte, do you think the timing's right? Have City got it right again?
I think so. To be fair, I think it's a mixed one, really, because obviously I think if he would have kept him, he would have done what he's done previous seasons. But as well, I think it is the right time. In a way, I was quite surprised as well, because I thought it would be Bernardo Silva who went Barcelona. I think it's because he were heavily linked with him last year. But yeah, I think it's a good move for both. And there's obviously, I don't want to speak too much of it, but there's obviously rumours of Declan Rice going there as well. So I think they do kind of, I think the good thing is with Pep Guardiola, once someone wants out, or he's got like what can I say? When he kind of
eyes have been turned,
yeah,
and his head's been turned. Yeah,
when someone's head's been turned, it kind of thinks, you know what, if it's not good enough anymore, go, kind of thing. And that's what I do kind of like with Pep Guardiola, and I think that's why he's a top class manager as well. He doesn't kind of dwell on it. He's like, right, well, if you don't want to be 100%, then go. And that's what I do like about him.
It's time to move on for some players, and he does sort of recognise that. So Lisa says she thinks he will be excellent at Barca, and as Chris mentions, they've already got Kovacic lined up to replace him, who's a good technical player, I think, in there that will do a job. And quite at Chelsea this season, he had a bit of an injury, didn't he? And Chelsea have got many issues, so it's very difficult, I think, to pinpoint individual player form with what's happened at Chelsea. Kovacic as a replacement, Billy, a decent one for City.
Very, very underrated player. Very, very good player.
Yeah.
He's got big success in his career, and they got him for an absolute bargain as well, 30 million. I mean, you're talking 30 million for Kovacic, but they wanted 55 for Mount, so it doesn't quite add up in the Chelsea transfer department there, but I think he's going to be great for City. Yeah,
I think it's an exceptional technical player. And again, will probably be another one that will thrive in an interesting City midfield. Just to go back a few people in the chat with their heartbreak. So we've got Chris F. Lessons, Matty London. He did it twice to him. Matty London was the one that left him. That was sad. And
I agree with that.
Aaron Ramsdale broke her heart at Bournemouth going to Arsenal. Yes, I can see that as well. Another player that's looking like he's on the move. I think you mentioned it very, very briefly there, Shah. Declan Rice. We all kind of assumed that this was going to happen, but it seems to start to be heating up into a bit of a bidding war.
Yeah.
There's a few people come in. Arsenal looked fairly heavy favourites. Manchester City. There's even rumours of Manchester United possibly as well. Declan Rice. If you were to put your finger on it today, where do you think he's going to go?
I'm going to go Arsenal.
You think he'll do Arsenal, do you? Think he'll be at Arsenal?
I just think... I think it's the whole move into Manchester. I think he's got a young one. I think it's mentioned that he wants to stay local to where he lives now as well. So that's my... I think it's me being hopeful. Because if they get him, I'm sorry, but Manchester City are going to be even more unstoppable. And they're already unstoppable already. So I think I'm being selfish. I think I want him to go to Arsenal or Manchester United because I just cannot cope with Manchester City getting all these players and just winning even more than they already do.
You don't need any more, do you? Say Rice in that midfield with Kovacic coming. And there's also rumours of Gvardiol as well coming in the defence, like not short of a decent centre-back or two. I know he likes to play 7 of them across the back, into midfield, but it's crazy, isn't it? I'm a little bit worried if that's the move that Rice makes if he does go to Manchester City. The worry is with the money. I don't know what you think, Billy, that the money is going to be the ones that put City in pole position if it gets into that kind of bidding war.
Yeah, 100%. They've got the biggest war chest. I can't see him going to Newcastle. It's too early on in their project. So in terms of competing with money in the Premier League, it's Man City all the way. But I just worry for Rice if he goes to Man City, will he actually play? Because they've got players like Rodri, like you said, Kovacic coming in. Their squad depth is so good. I mean, look at what happened to Calvin Phillips. Rice is a better player, but I feel like for Rice's career, he would need to go somewhere else than City to play every game.
Yeah, and you can see with Arsenal, obviously, Xhaka's more or less on the way out, looking like he's going to go to Leverkusen. There's still a lot of big question marks about whether Thomas Partey is going to stay, linked with Saudi Arabia and other teams as well. So, yeah, Arsenal would be straight in. Would he fit in? I mean, I suppose Calvin Phillips might go. That might be part of the deal. That might be something that could happen in the reverse. So, I thought early on Arsenal were looking pretty heavy set, but Manchester City, I don't know, the pool there might do things. I think this is going to be one of the sagas. I can't see this ending too soon. I think that will go on a little while. And there was rumours today of a 40 million plus a Harry Maguire being from Manchester United as well, which is that's a price to make that difference up, isn't it, on Harry Maguire's head. Saudi Arabia are looking, so we might get some money over there.
I know.
Bit crazy. And just on Saudi Arabia, so Charlotte and I discussed it last week, Billy. How are you taking all this? Do you think this is a good thing in terms of a spanner? Or I mean, obviously you're a football manager, career. Are you worried about FM24 with Saudi Arabian teams?
Yeah, I mean they stole a few of my players on this year's save, but I feel like it's a big project for the Saudi Arabian government to redevelop their economy. So instead of oil and gas, as renewable energy, all that kind of good stuff, they're looking at sport, and they've done it with F1, they've done it with golf. So football's the next obvious one, and I feel like it's good for the transfer window because there'll be a lot more money flowing around. So we're going to see a lot more active transfer window, and it's great for clubs like Chelsea that need to move dead wood on. So any club that needs to move sort of like a player that's got Premier League experience, international player on that's not quite fit in their squad, it'd be great for them. But yeah, I'm quite excited about them. So I want to see what their league brings. It reminds me a lot of the Chinese Super League, but someone told me it's the Chinese Super League on steroids, should we say?
It sounds like that, don't they? They always seem to have attracted one or two more players in kind of the peak of their career compared to what the Super League was, and didn't quite have the sustainability, did it, to maintain it all. But evening to Luke has joined us in the chat as well. And Heather says on Declan Rice, will he definitely leave? Is there any possibility, Char, that he stays at West Ham?
I would love to say yeah, but I just cannot see it. I think now they've obviously won the Conference Cup as well. They've won something. He's won something as captain of West Ham. I think he'll now see it as time to move on. And I think if the right money is available to West Ham, they'd be silly to turn it down.
There's a time and a place for every player, like the kind of. With no disrespect to West Ham, outgrows the club, doesn't it, to that position? And he's been a steward for them, and he's done a long stint. I remember when we spoke to Russ Budden on the West Ham podcast episode that we did, and he was sort of saying, he's kind of earned the move. He's stuck behind them, and to finish it off with a Conference League win as well, the time seems right. So I don't know what you think, Billy, but I'm in the camp. I think he's gone as long as the money can be agreed. Yeah,
same. I've got a lot of West Ham fans that are friends of mine, so. They've said the same thing that you just said there. He's earned that move. He's a European winning captain, and they don't have many of those at West Ham. So he's cemented his legacy. I don't think there's anything else he can achieve at West Ham realistically. So it'd be a good time for him to move on, and the fans are happy with him going as well by the sound of it.
Yeah, if they get big money for him, and they'll be hoping they can get it early, so then they can recoup that and invest that in the team across the summer. And they'll probably be looking at 2 or 3 players to replace that. And they're not going to, I would imagine, go big on something else. But that would be a good one. So Declan Rice still continues to rumble on, and one that Charlotte is unbelievably excited to. I featured him on the thumbnail this week as well.
I know.
The Mason Mount transfer saga. The question is the amount too much for Mount? The way it's going, the price is starting to tumble up. I think 55 million is the last bid. There's rumours Chelsea wants 65. United are saying we're not giving you any more. Is the price too much, Charlotte, where it's at, or
100%? 100%. And I think Manchester United have done right, because I think they've been like, no, we're not offering any more, and fair play, because we've seen in recent transfer windows previous transfer windows at Manchester United, they've kind of thrown the money, haven't they? And I like the fact that they're like, no, we'll just move on. And I know there's been a few names linked with them as well. Is it Caicedo?
Caicedo's another one that
Caicedo,
seems to
yeah.
be on Chelsea's list as
But
well. He is,
I was going to say, the only thing I'm thinking with that is because Manchester United are interested as well, will they give in Chelsea so then they can get him? That's the only thing. And yeah, it's a lot of money for Mason Mount. And you know me, I'm a Mason Mount fan. I do like Mason Mount, but yeah, they can't go any more higher. I'm sorry, they can't.
No, I think they're playing it as right as they can now in the negotiation game. You get to the point, you said, there's the offer, and Chelsea is saying, well, now it's this plus a little bit more. And you said, no, we're done. And we'll go away and start talking to other players, and then maybe they'll come back. He's only got a year left on his contract, so he can go for free next summer. So it just seems it's a little bit of a stickler over what we're talking about, 5 million for a club that spent 600 million last season. They could be stuck, and it seems like Mason Mount really wants to go. In terms of the transfer for the club, I'm still not sure how.
Do you know what kind of is annoying me though at the minute? I keep seeing Chelsea fans like slandering him, and I think to myself, he said he wants to go, but he's not put in a transfer request. He's happily said that he'll do pre-season and outstay his contract. Like, what else can he do? It's not as if he's like kicked up a big fuss like most players and most egos do these days. And this is what is really infuriating me. Plus the fact I love Mason Mount. That's also to add to it.
How dare you go against Mason Mount?
But I was like, he's done it the right way, hasn't he? He's not like kicked up a fuss, to be fair.
No, and there must be a certain amount of, because he was a big player in that system that, you know, when they won the Champions League under Tuchel, if you're sat there and you suddenly see player after player after player coming through the front door, you must be sort of like, this is ridiculous. This is, trying to get enough fight in this. I don't feel I know the team anymore. I think it loses that whole, you feel like it's your team. You've got the camaraderie with so many teammates coming in that January transfer window. There's no doubt it's made it difficult. I mean, we've got Zeus is saying Chelsea should keep Mount because of the registration rules. There's one way to keep them in. And Chris says as well, 55 million, leave it on the table with a player just 1 year left. Yeah, I agree. Leave it on the table and they take it or they don't. And Heather adds, of course, he's literally so adorable. So, that whether that amounts to another 5 million or not, I'm not sure. But from a Manchester United perspective, Billy, do you think Mount is someone that they should be pushing this hard to get? Can you see how he fits in a Ten Hag system?
I can, but I don't think they should be. I don't want to upset Charlotte here, but I'm not a Mason Mount fan. I just don't feel he's worth anywhere near 55 million. There's so many better options on the table for United. And I think that if he wasn't English, he'd be, it's that old adage of the English tax. If he was from, say, Scotland, for instance, no offense to Scotland, but he'd be, 20 million. I think John McGinn's a better player than Mason Mount, in my opinion. And I feel like he would be a better fit at United, a lot cheaper as well. And like you said, with the 1 year on his contract, you could just wait it out and then sign him next summer for nothing.
It's a lot of money for something that I think it's not a key part. The thing is, if we're a midfielder, you're going to struggle generally to pay, particularly if you go somewhere in the Premier League, 50 million, you're going to struggle, particularly when you're Manchester United, because you pay the Premier League tax and the Man United tax to try and get anybody. And I can kind of see he wants more legs in there. He wants more support around Casemiro. There's games where Eriksen is fine in possession, but in games like the FA Cup final was case in point. If you haven't got the legs in there to be doing what Eriksen's doing, so you need that different option. Sabitzer was injured, but that was kind of part of the idea. So the kind of player and the profile makes sense, but I don't know if Mount is going to be consistent enough. I know last season his stats are hard to tell, but the season before they weren't too bad in terms of contributions. But also it's a lot of pressure that will come with him. Always does with Manchester United players, and we see so many of them. It doesn't quite look at Jadon Sancho for one. Anybody we saw from Borussia Dortmund seems to be the case, that they just drop 2 levels and it becomes too much for them. So it's going to be difficult. They've made their offers. I think you just now say take it or leave it and move on. So I think they're concerned about FFP, and with the owners, they don't know what they're going to have, what's going on in the scenes. They need to sell first. 13 players apparently today are on the transfer list. I can well believe it as well. Saudi Arabia are interested in Eric Bailly, which is like, just, yes, take the money. Take the money. Those kind of transfers are what you need. Get some out the door. But yeah, Mason Mount, I'm not sure. The only thing now is it will then push. He may then have to push Chelsea and say, look, what are we doing here? Are you going to do it? Are you not going to do it? And what's the plan? So it does kind of force the hand, if nothing else, for Mason Mount. But Chelsea are busy. Chelsea are busy in terms of the outs, but they've got so many players to get out. I can understand. Yep. Kai Havertz being the next one. We spoke at length about it last week because Lucas was here, and we knew it would be entertaining because Lucas is not the biggest Kai Havertz fan. Being an Arsenal fan, he's not particularly happy with that transfer. Kai Havertz, how do you see that one? Is that something you think Arsenal are making the right move for?
Yeah, I think it's a good shout. It's the same sort of system that Arteta plays that Pep played a few seasons ago. So he's got that Kevin De Bruyne kind of new gen in Odegaard. He plays a very similar role to De Bruyne. And I feel like they've bought Havertz to play a very similar role to a Bernardo Silva. So I feel like he'll work well. He'll probably get 10, 12 goals for them next season just popping up in the space. So I feel like it's a very shrewd signing. I don't think he was a number 9, and I think that's probably why Chelsea fans are happy to see him go because he was playing out of position. But I think for Arsenal, he could actually be a real threat. I'm actually not looking forward to playing them next season as a Spurs fan. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's a funny one, Havertz, isn't he? Because he came from Leverkusen, massive kind of. There was a lot of. He was one of the big up and coming European young kind of forward players. Was already a regular in the Germany starting lineup. And I think I saw today he played 120 appearances, maybe 30 goals in that time. You know, he's not an out-and-out striker, so you can't kind of compare him with your number 9s, as you said. But his sort of minutes per goal weren't quite as good. If you look last season, I think he had, apart from Patrick Bamford, one of the worst XG records against what he actually, his finishing was dreadful last season. But there's obviously a player there. There's a player that scored in the Champions League final as well. The biggest goal in Chelsea's recent history. So that's probably what Arteta's thinking that he can get something out of. But I know there's a lot of scepticism amongst not just Lucas, but a lot of Arsenal fans going, not really sure that there was understanding of the transfer. But sometimes they're the best ones. The names aren't always the ones you need. And he's still a name, I think Chris asked a good question, because I think that's the question we have. Where is he going to fit in? Because I don't think he displaces any of the starting lineup as it sits. You wouldn't have him in over Odegaard. You wouldn't have him in over Martinelli or Saka. Gabriel Jesus up front. I don't see him. It's a lot of money to spend on someone who's going to potentially sit on the bench to start. Now, they need that because they've got more squad. They need more squad depth. They're in Champions League, so I understand that. But do you think, Charlotte, by spending on Havertz, that they're going to struggle in other areas they need them? And if Declan Rice is going to cost 100 million, they spent 65 on Havertz, then they're almost done, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a weird one for me because obviously I personally wouldn't have had him as the first choice, like many Arsenal fans. But I do feel like at Chelsea, he didn't really have a certain position like Mason Mount. I feel like Chelsea do have a lot of floaters and they don't really know what position they play in. So maybe at Arsenal, if Arteta does give him like a certain position, and he might thrive there, where I think like at Chelsea, there was a lot more pressure on him and he didn't really know where he fitted in and the system they were playing. And like what I said about Mason Mount as well, I don't know what their out and out position were, both of them.
I don't think anybody in that Chelsea team
did they? All of them.
even the goalkeeper was the guy. No idea. Thoroughly confused by what Lampard's trying to put in play here. Very confusing. And he's not just the only one that's gone. I think, say Saudi Arabia have gone big on Chelsea so far. There's been rumoured meetings, isn't there, with Todd Boehly and a few people out there. So I think, tell me if I've missed any off. I had Koulibaly, Kante, Ziyech has gone today, isn't he? I think he's gone to Al Nassr, Ronaldo's team. Is that it? Is it just a 3? I can't remember if they're linked with anybody else. I know they've released Bakayoko as well, haven't they, on a 3? He was a terrible signing. Nothing ever happened with him, did he? He was a good move on, but they have bought. This was a transfer that they already had in the bag, which I think is one that could potentially be very exciting. Is Christopher Nkunku? of Leipzig's come in for 50 million. Have you seen much of him, Billy, or aware too much of him? I know he's football manager; he's quite explosive, but could be exciting for Chelsea.
Yeah, I think he could do well at Chelsea. He's probably very quite similar to João Felix, the role that he played for them last season. I think he's probably a better suited Premier League player than Felix. I don't know. He could either go hit or miss. I feel like he could have an absolute barnstorming season, or he could be an absolute flop. I don't think there'll be a middle ground for him. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do in the Premier League. He was very good for Leipzig, so hopefully he can bring that form to Chelsea as well. But yeah, I think it'll be an either or. I don't think it'll be a middle season for him.
No, I mean, and the last one they got from Leipzig was, of course, Timo Werner that didn't quite hit the heights they were hoping for with him. So they will be hoping for better times around now. And so we don't just focus with teams of the top six on the podcast. We go all the way through, and of course we are mindful of who we have in the chat, and we know that Bournemouth are doing business. Heather, Bournemouth have been doing business. Justin Kluivert's one that they've come in and brought in today. Wide player for them. They've already signed up Hamed Traoré on a full-time deal as well. So Justin Kluivert, he's one that at a very young age, had a lot of prospect and was quite high in terms of the European scouting. And then he kind of went to Roma and ended up at Valencia on last season. I mean, they've already got, what's his name? Ouattara, wasn't it? They brought in last season, who was an excellent addition. Justin Kluivert, Billy, a good one for Brighton. It's a reasonable fee.
Yeah, it's not bad. I don't know if he's more of a Nepo baby in terms of if his name wasn't Kluivert, would he be given the opportunities that he's been given? Because he was very good at Ajax when he was a young player, like you said, but everywhere he's gone after that, he hasn't done it. And I don't know if that's down to his attitude or he's not fitting the systems that he's playing in. For Bournemouth, it's not really no risk at the fee that they've paid. So if he scores 8-9 goals for them, that's quality. So yeah, I feel like hopefully he can do it because his dad was one of my favourite players of all time. So just for that reason, I want to see him do well. But
that's it. Well, I remember at the time everyone was clawing for Patrick Kluivert to be. He was linked heavily with Arsenal at one point. I think before Arsenal got Anelka, and then Manchester United were linked with him heavily at one point as well. There was a lot around Patrick Kluivert. And Heather says just raiding Roma. Jose Mourinho is lovely to talk to. Then why not? And of course, hoping they sign Vino, they had on loan last season too, would be a good addition for them. So a couple of attacking players coming in for Bournemouth so far. Just looking through some of the other teams, if there's anything interesting that those teams have done in the transfer window yet. I think we'll ask you because we spoke on this last week, Billy, but Alexis McAllister to Liverpool, 35 million, a good price. You think they've done some good business there?
So cheap. When you compare it to the fee for Mount, 35 from McAllister. McAllister's won a World Cup. He's one of Brighton's key players, was one of the key players at the World Cup for Argentina. So I think that's an absolute bargain. He's going to be quality for Liverpool. I can't see it going any other way.
No, I think he fits in well. Premier League experience, a real key cog in that Brighton team, and a consistent performer as well. I find with him, very consistent, very good. I think they've done really well with that one. A big transfer coming up. I don't know if it's 100% signed off yet, but Newcastle are looking like here comes the cash. Here comes the money. It's money. And they're looking at Sandro Tonali of AC Milan, very technical player from Milan, from Italy, for around a fee of about £70 million. I mean, Charles, is this the start of the Newcastle money splashing? We're all waiting for it. It's there.
I think it is, but at the same time, I think they do spend quite well. Newcastle, obviously, I've said it before. Obviously, Eddie Howe, and I think they have to spend now because they're in they're in Champions League, aren't they? Yeah. So I think they do have to try and spend and attract them big players now, because if they do want to have the season like they did last season or finish at least up there in Europe, I think with it being so money orientated now, we've got so many people and teams in the pipeline for Europe. You've got your Brentford, your Brightons as well now. Obviously contending. So I think you do have to spend to be up there, because I think that's what football is now, isn't it? Especially in that league.
That's what they have to compete. And the thought of, say, having him in there with Guimaraes could be a very exciting midfield.
Yeah.
And as Heather says, they are. Today's come out about Tino Livramento That's one I'd say a lot of Southampton fans down here we've been talking about, and said obviously he's been a bit like the forgotten man because he was injured for the whole of the season, had a horrible injury, and there's always a question, is he the same player coming back? But if he is, he was fantastic for them 2 seasons ago, and £12 million for an understudy to Trippier, who's a very, very, very good player. If he's, and say they can test his fitness, but if they don't and they spent 12 million, it's not a disaster either.
Exactly.
Livramento, I don't know what you think, Billy. I think Livramento would be an excellent deal at that price.
Definitely England's future right back if he can recover from that injury. He's so good. I saw him play at Chelsea quite a lot in the their under-21 squad. He looked quality, and like you said 2 seasons ago, that season he had for Southampton was a real breakout one. And I do think there's a player in there if he can recover, because that injury was pretty bad.
It was horrific, and at such a young age. But I suppose it goes one of 2 ways, doesn't it? There's time to recover, but at the same time, they're going to take a knock of confidence and everything. I think Southampton fans were hoping everyone had forgotten how good he was, so that they could use him in the Championship and then raise a fee at the same time. But it seems people haven't forgotten, so I think he would be good to get in. And Heather is pleased that Ryan Fraser is moving potentially in the other direction to be leaving Newcastle to possibly Southampton in reverse. Now, of course, we have you on, Billy, as a Tottenham fan. Say Tottenham are. It's been manager sorting out first, which is now dealt with. Is all kind of done. So, what can you spill the beans for us on what's happening in the transfer market for Tottenham at the moment?
Well, we look very close to signing Vicario, the young goalkeeper, Italian. I think he's going for a medical today. So once that's okay, I'm sure we'll sign him. Replacement for Lloris, who looks like he's off to Saudi Arabia as well. We'll pay his airfare ticket. Yeah, but that seems like there's all there is at the moment. Obviously, the Kane speculation carries on if he's going to go. I think Bayern was the latest club that I heard that were the front runners for him. Big, great move for him. If he goes, then we'll definitely need to find a striker. But finding a good quality striker and teams knowing we've got money is never a good prospect, especially after. I mean, the last comparable transfer will be Gareth Bale to Madrid, and look what we did with that money. So I'm hoping we do better this time.
Yes, it all went a bit mad with that, didn't it? There was cash splashed everywhere, and so you've already turned the Kulusevski deal into a permanent one. I think that was already a clause, wasn't it, in his contract to be played so many games. So that one's all kind of tied up, and it's waiting to see what's going on in a couple of areas to where and what you could potentially spend. I think we spoke when we were on the podcast that we did with you. Centre back, a key area, somewhere that you're looking for them to be strengthening pretty quick.
Yeah, at least 2. At least minimum 2. Sell Eric Dyer to Saudi Arabia, let him go, and then use some money to get 2 quality centre backs. They were talking about Tapsoba, I think Leverkusen centre back.
Leverkusen,
he would be a good option as well with Romero, and then another one because we can't play Ben Davies at centre back. He's not a bad bench option, but we need at least 2, maybe 3 good quality centre backs if Ange is going to continue with that 5 at the back, which he most likely will. I mean, maybe Cameron Carlton-Vickers could come back, a player that he knows well from his Celtic days, ex-Tottenham Youth Academy player. I mean, maybe would be cheap, but it depends. I really want to see us buy centre-backs. I don't want to see us sign another forward player unless Kane goes. Yeah,
you do need that centre back. I'd say maybe Saudi, they could pair Maguire and Dyer. That would be a lovely pairing. I'm sure. And just the hope that there's no pace in the league whatsoever. But if they're all buying like sort of Ronaldo-esque towards the end of the career, maybe they could get away with it. You never know.
Yeah.
And so if Lloris is going, and I think this was possibly planned anyway, but Chris is saying about David Raya, obviously has been linked very heavily. Gone quiet also the last week. It seemed to be almost on the door, but they're talking about £40 million. One of the best goalkeepers undoubtedly in the league last season. The stats back it up as well in so many categories. A goalkeeper you'd be really happy with, I presume, if he came through the door?
Yeah. But 40 million is a bit steep for me, for a goalkeeper. If we're signing the young Italian Vicario, he's going to be understudy. David Raya would be a good number 1, but I feel like maybe there's other keepers out there that would be slightly better for a lower, less price point, because I don't think Levy's going to stretch £40 million for a goalkeeper. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to do it, but I'd take him. If money wasn't an issue, I'd have him, but I can't see it getting done for that sort of money.
No, not unless you get the Kane money, as you say, and then there's thoughts of how you invest it. But I think he's possibly one. I mean, I'm hoping from a Man United perspective that he's out having them, because obviously the David De Gea contract situation, is he staying, is he going, what's going on there? And if we're going to progress to a goalkeeper that can play out, I don't think there's much better around than David Raya. So for United, 40 million is probably a decent shot for a goalkeeper. But it all depends on what's happening with David De Gea. And of course, we still have Dean Henderson. Dean Henderson's still there. There's rumours that Forest might pull out the money and get him. But, he wasn't number one by the end of the season. I know he had some injuries, but so they've got to sort out their goalkeeping situation. It's just very different. It's merry-go-round this time of year, isn't it? You almost need the one transfer to happen, and then it just kicks off, and suddenly you get that kind of waterfall effect, and everybody starts jumping around everywhere. So I'm just having a look through my list here in terms of if there's any other exciting transfers, and that's happened. I mean, Chris Wood's gone to Nottingham Forest. Does that excite you, Sharp? Chris Wood at Nottingham Forest. That's gonna change everything, I'm sure. I think we mentioned it last. I think it was just going through last week, so we'll touch on it. Ruben Neves. Ruben Neves has become probably one of the biggest, well, not necessarily the biggest name to Saudi Arabia, but one that's in the prime of his career. I mean, at 24, what do you think he's going to get? He's 26, Shah, going over to Saudi Arabia. Do you think he could still do a couple of years over there and come back to Europe and then do something else?
I reckon so. From somebody who watches the Premier League, I am quite gutted because I've always liked him. I've liked watching him play. I think he's brilliant. But at the same time, when somebody is offering that kind of money and you've got a family, it's kind of, you can't really turn it down, especially at that age, because it could go, like you've said, it could go for a few years and then come back. And I've heard rumours as well. I don't think it's true, but there's something linked with him that if he wanted to, he could. Because is it the team he signed for? Are they linked to Newcastle or something?
There's some very questionable Newcastle links with some of these that, I'm wondering. We get some loan deals that appear.
But I'm gutted from a Premier League perspective because I really like him. I think he's a great player, but I think we could possibly see him again, because if he has a couple of years there, I think he could easily come back, obviously depending on injuries and stuff, because you never know with a player. But yeah, I hope it's not the last we see of him in the Premier League.
No, he's too good not to.
Very good.
And he's still, say, a regular Portuguese international, so we're going to see him regularly in that competition. I mean, you look at his partner in crime that he had at Wolves in Moutinho as well. Moutinho didn't move to the Premier League till late, and Neves has kind of got that quality. You could see him evolving his game when he gets older. I mean, Neves must have been one you're looking at with the Spurs hat on as well, Billy, thinking he could have done a job. I think a lot of teams in the Premier League, do you think he could have done a job for them? Do you think Premier League's going to miss him?
100%. Yeah, I'm disappointed that he went to Saudi Arabia, but I understand it, like you said, from a personal perspective. If you've got that opportunity to earn money, go and do it, especially at that age. You can be there for 3 years and come back. I would love to have seen him at Tottenham. Such a quality central midfield player, and he would be that central midfield player for us that we've been missing for many years, a creative midfield player. But yeah, it's going to be a huge miss. It's a huge signing for the Saudi League. It's almost reminiscent of when Oscar went to the Chinese League. It's that same level of player going.
It is. It makes a real statement for them that it's not just, not just a Ronaldo, but we're talking about an end of career Ronaldo, or, Kante's kind of a similar one, isn't he? So they are buying lots and lots and lots of players. As Heather mentions about Nottingham Forest, can they get any more players in after their previous transfer window? I mean, that is a question. Are we going to see the same again? Surely Forest can't go out and buy that many players again after last summer. That was utterly bonkers, but. So a team that's done a couple of bits already, which we didn't touch on last week. Their deals already done. In terms of Brentford have bought a couple of players in from Germany. I mean, I'm not particularly familiar with either of these two. I think one's a goalkeeper, Mark Flecken's come in, and they bought a guy called Kevin Schade. And Romeo Beckham has joined Brentford B, of course, from Inter Milan, into Miami. Not expecting to see too much of him, but and they spent 11 million on Flecken, David Flecken, and Sharda's at 20 million. Are these the kind of transfer ability that you're thinking, these might be the ones that kind of fly under the radar and because of their track record with Brentford?
Yeah, Sharda's a very good player. Very, very good player. German under-21 international. Was on loan last half of the season there. He's going to be one that they'll sell on for a big profit. He's got bags of pace, trickery. good passing, good technical ability. He's one that's really gone under the radar. I thought he would have gone to somewhere like Dortmund or Bayern, but Brentford, like you said, have got that great scouting network as well. So yeah, that's definitely one that's gone under the radar. And the Romeo Beckham one, I actually saw his first game. He played at my local club Welling for his first game, and David Beckham was actually there. And he was terrible. So again, are they signing him for shirt sales or are they signing him for his ability? We'll never know. But yeah, apart from that signing, I think that's good business from Brentford.
It's a good start for Brentford. And of course, probably the other thing, Shah, they've got to consider, which is a very difficult one. You've got 6 months without Ivan Toney now, which is probably... I mean, the realistic thing is if he stays, he probably would have been heavily involved in this transfer window and probably been under threat to leave. But then Brentford may have also been banking on that for the funds to kind of reverse around. So they may have had to change tack. I mean, if you're Brentford, you have got some attackers there. They did perform well. You know, you've got players up front like Bremo and that can do damage. Do you hold off or do you try and get something in to cover till Toney gets back? What's the plan?
I think personally they need to get someone in to not only cover for Toney, but cover for any injuries as well, because you've automatically got him gone till obviously, is it January he's back?
Yeah, January.
So you've got him gone for those months, and then you're already down a man. Obviously, suspensions, injuries, things like that. So yeah, I think we definitely do need to get somebody in. They all performed when obviously Toney couldn't play. And they did well, but I think just to kind of stabilise them, I think we do need to get some more signings in. And can I also add as well, Ethan Briley from Rochdale signed for Brentford's B team. So he'll be playing with Romeo Beckham. Got Briley and Beckham.
Briley and Beckham. Maybe he'll persuade him on a loan deal down to Scotland, shall I see?
Can he play in net? We need a keeper.
You need a new keeper, The transfer window is strange. Anything can happen. That's the key with the transfer window. You never know what's happening. So we'll have a look at one more too. So if you're in the chat and you've got any rumours, let us know of any rumours. Anything you've heard. If you're the next Fabrizio Romano out there, who's got taps in different places in terms of what the latest rumour is. Anything else you've heard, Billy, in terms of rumours that have struck your interest, or any potential names that you've heard of?
Yeah, there was one for Tottenham, Mickey van der Ven. He plays for Wolfsburg, Dutch centre-back, Dutch under-21s playing in the Euros at the moment. I feel like he would be a good player for Tottenham, would go under the radar as well because he won't cost that much. So, maybe like 20 million max, which for a Premier League centre-back is very, very cheap.
It's a good price,
Yeah, as well as the Georgian goalkeeper, Mamarashvili. He plays for Valencia. He's another one that's been linked with Tottenham. A bit of a theme with these ones I'm going through here, but I feel like that's another one that could be good for us because Valencia have money issues and you could probably leverage that against what you pay for him as well. So those are two interesting ones for me personally. For Spurs, I feel like those are good ones.
You get the ones, say, that when you've got clubs with money issues, it does make a difference, and clubs do. You can see them sort of pecking around. They're like seagulls, just kind of waiting for their moment, ready to drop. Going, I know there's trouble there, and sneaking on it, or if you get a sniff of a player that you know is unhappy or is trying to make a move, or has been heavy in the public eye, and one of those been Arsenal's young guy, Fodorin Balogun, of course, is someone that they've had back on loan. He was out on loan last season. In France, had a decent goal record in French Ligue 1 as well, and he's come back and said, "I want to play." He's 21 years old. I think he's just kind of moved to the American national team, hasn't he? There was who he was going to play for internationally, and he's now been linked with Leipzig. What do you make, Billy, of Balogun? Do you think that someone in the Premier League might have a sniff? Because I think the rumours at the minute seem to be Germany.
Yeah, if I was Brentford, I'd go for him. Like Tony's going to be out, like we mentioned, until January, and plus he's not going to be fit. He's not going to be match fit. So next season, Ivan Toney's not going to feature much. I don't think he'll get fit towards the end of the season. It might be vital for them. But Balogun, if they give him a chance, he's a very similar player to Toney. He presses well. He can finish. He's got a lot of pace. So I feel like he'd be an ideal replacement / competition once Toney comes back from his suspension.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good move for them. And as you say, and they could maybe develop into a partnership with Toney. And if Toney eventually goes, which is still on the cards down the line, then you've got someone else that you're kind of bringing through and basing your team on. So he's an exciting young player that's available and potentially going to move. another one that I sort of had down here. I've got many that I've just put Saudi Arabian clubs next to because this is really linked with everybody. Brozovic being one, Marcelo Brozovic of Inter Milan. William Carvalho is another that I had on this list that's been linked. It's anybody basically. Damari Gray was the latest I saw today.
Wow.
So Damari Gray is a link. I mean, Everton need to do some business, and he's possibly one of their better players. So that's not and it's going to put a spanner in your transfer window. I think we said this last week, didn't we, Shard? That if you've got your plans, you're expecting if anyone's going to come in with a big fee for a top player, you're looking at your Paris Saint-Germain's or Real Madrid, but you kind of know where they're heading. This is like the X factor. I mean, do you worry, Billy, that the big Harry Kane Saudi Arabian bid's coming? 270 million?
I mean, we'd take it, and I'd fly in there myself. But you could do. I could do, but I feel like Kane wouldn't go because I feel like Southgate wouldn't pick him if he was playing in that level of league.
No. For a Kane, it's definitely not the move, is it? It's not the one to go for. But the money talks to a lot of players, and a lot of other players will be the ones that are worrying. And so just so many players being linked.
I saw as well. Oh, sorry. James Maddison's been linked to obviously Spurs, and he's been linked to Newcastle as well.
James Maddison is one we would expect to go. I think did Spurs make? Was it Spurs who made their 40 million bid or something for both him and Harvey Barnes? Was that something? I mean, that's at the end of a wine and cheese evening, surely, isn't it? Like, just send a text and see, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that strikes of Daniel Levy, doesn't it? It's like, oh, can we get a cheeky bargain in because they've been relegated, and we'll ruffle some feathers and see if we can, pull off the deal of the century. But yeah, I don't think again Maddison 50 million is too much. But yeah, if we could have got both of them for 50 million, that would have been class. But yeah, Maddison he will go. I think he'll go to Newcastle because we won't pay the 50 for him.
No, yeah, I think Maddison's definitely going, and I think Harvey Barnes too. They're both good players, both quality players that should be in the Premier League. To be honest, Lisa reckons in terms of Saudi Arabia, Kroos and Lewandowski. Well, I think Kroos is just about staying. Modric signed a contract. Apparently, they offered Luka Modric one of the highest wage packets that you've ever seen in your life, and he agreed to stay one more year at Real Madrid. So fair play to him to an extent, because he could have gone for that final year. Yeah. But just crazy. It's just
Busquets is official as well. He's gone into Miami, hasn't he? With Messi, Busquets is gone officially.
Bottom of the MLS they currently are, so their fans must be thinking, can't get them over soon enough, please. So that's another big one, and we mentioned it briefly earlier, but just a bit more on the player himself. Josko Gvardiol, Billy, was fantastic in the World Cup. Started to raise his eyeballs. Sort of people in Europe have known about him a little while. Another Football Manager quality player as well that's come through that we all know him very well. And it seems to be Leipzig are hanging on. They want him to be the most expensive centre-back in world football. I mean, it's scary how much quality Man City have at centre-back, but it's one I could see coming off. And are we worried? Are we even more worried with him coming to the Premier League?
Yeah, I mean, City's backline will be incredible with him playing left-sided centre-back. He's much more of an improvement upon Nathan Ake, and Nathan Ake is a good player as well. But he's 2-3 times the player that Ake is, even at his young age. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be scared playing City next season. They're not going to concede many goals if they have him in defence, and you've got Haaland up front as well with all the other guys in the midfield to worry about. You might as well just give them the title now, unless something drastically goes wrong in the dressing room, or Pep decides to leave or play Edison up front. Then, yeah, it's their title.
I think the thing is, Edison can play. Of all the goalkeepers you probably have out, Edison's probably the guy you'd have because he's not bad. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get at least five a season, and that's got so much quality. That for me would be a massive transfer. One I also saw as well, another defensive transfer. Arsenal, Jurrien Timber, right back. Manchester United were linked with him last season. Shah. I mean, he's one that's been playing the Dutch national side, comes with kind of a good pedigree. There's a lot of players that seem to be after him. I mean, Arsenal have got that kind of weird position, haven't they, with the fullbacks where they're sort of converting and doing bits. But with Ben White and Tomiyasu on the right. I think did you see Arsenal signing a right back as well? They're splashing some bids and some money if that's the case.
I could, and I think, to be fair, they need to, because we saw last season they struggled with injuries, especially at the back, didn't they? Obviously, we've got Champions League football, and I think what troubled Arsenal and what kind of, obviously Man City were epic last season, but what kind of went wrong for Arsenal when they were so far at the top of the league, I think it was because of injuries and because they just didn't have that steam. I think they ran out of steam. So I think Arteta might have learned his lesson now. And we were saying about January, we thought they should have strengthened in January because they might have got to that finishing line finally. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a good signing for them if it does happen. I think they do need a bigger squad, Arsenal. I really do, especially with the Champions League football as well and the competitions, because I just think Man City's team are not just quality. They have got a lot of, obviously, they've got a plan B as well, haven't they? They've got Haaland, they've got Alvarez, they've got all these players. So I think if Arsenal do want to be up there challenging them again and to go that step further, they do need more players.
They need more options, yeah, and they may have to spend a lot of money to do it to make that to try and make the step. And I think that's what the fans are expecting. The fans are saying, right, well, we've gone so far, let's try and make the step and make the statements as much as anything else. And he's a player that's a decent pedigree. Manchester United were linked with him last season. He was very close, I think, to coming to Manchester United last season. So a good player. And we'll just end on, so we've covered on mostly the Premier League. There are some bits and pieces obviously in the Championship that's going on, but one player from the Championship that's being heavily linked out as well, possibly to West Ham, is Alex Scott, who's got good pedigree in terms of Bristol City. One I think that Tottenham were linked with, I think as well, West Ham being the name too. 19-year-old, fantastic stats coming out of the Championship, and seems to be one that seems to be cherry-picked and taken. What sort of price would you put on his head, Billy, for to get Scott in the door?
I feel like you could get him quite cheap because Bristol City are not the biggest financial powerhouse, so 15 million max, because he's unproven in the Premier League as well. So there's always that gamble. I think about 15.
Bournemouth win as well. I don't know whether Bournemouth win or whether Heather's just chucked the movements. She's just in herself. she's telling them they're after them. Yeah, it seems 15 million would sound a reasonable deal, I think, for a Championship up and comer. But it's starting, the wheels are starting to turn in the transfers. We will be continuing through the summer. So as they happen, Heather's saying 20 million. She's upping the bid as we go on, as we speak. He'll be a Bournemouth player by the end. It'll be by the end of the podcast. We will continue on through the summer with our transfer news because everything's happening every week. It won't be long until pre-season games and things are happening as well, so there's going to be plenty to cover. But obviously, we don't have any football or matches really to cover in terms of analysis. Not that we're the biggest analysis pod through Share Games. We've got nothing to talk about of it. So we've introduced quizzes, transfer little sort of fun entities at the end. I think last week we did the top stats of the Premier League, didn't we? He's the top 5 for this. So I've tried to focus on transfers for the quiz this week. It's a transfer special quiz in terms of transfers of the past. So as we did last year, the first part of the quiz, you can work together. So it would be harsh to sort of put Billy straight into the ring with you, Shah. That's part 2.
I'm bad at quizzes anyway. I'm bad.
So we are going to go with the quiz. So the first one is, so it's the top 10, but actually there's 11 because 10 and 11 are exactly the same. Premier League transfer fees, the top 10 Premier League transfer fees in ever history.
Oh.
Can you name the players that moved for whopping money? The top 10. So I said there's 11 because 10 and 11 are exactly the same.
Jack Grealish has got to be in there, hasn't he?
Jack
100%.
Grealish is in at number 2. 100 million.
Oh.
Aston Villa. Yeah, Jack Grealish.
He's got to be in there as well. Modric from Chelsea, wasn't he 100 million plus, or he had a big fee on him, whether it was add-ons. I don't know.
Yeah, it must have been add-on. It wasn't in this list, or it might have been that 750-year contract that he signed to get to get around it. He's not in there. At least this is Haaland. No, Haaland's not in there. Haaland was a steal.
I was going to say he was. Yeah.
according to the reports of the number that came out, he was a.
Harry Maguire.
I was going to say it.
Harry Maguire is the sixth most expensive Premier League player of all. I mean, this list doesn't look good from a Man United perspective. I'll just give you that clue. It's not a great list for us, but Harry Maguire is sixth. 80 million from Leicester to Manchester United.
Is it Enzo Fernandez? But again, is it one of those ones where he's got a million add-ons?
No, Enzo Fernandez is top. Yeah, he was 106.8 million for that Benfica to transfer, which is insane.
I'm trying to think for United, how much was Sancho?
Sancho, yeah, I think Heather's in the chat too. Jadon Sancho at 9. Sancho. 73 million. Dortmund to Manchester United. Yeah, 9th he was in at. Again, not really producing 73 million pounds worth so far. We've got six to go. I'll start dishing out some clues. One of them is the same player who's gone twice.
Lukaku. Yeah.
Big Rom is in there twice. Manchester United bought him from Everton for I think he should be higher than where he is actually. I think 85 million it says here. 85 million Everton to Manchester United. And then he went again from Inter Milan to Chelsea for 96 million.
Just a quick one. Is this permanent signings? Because wasn't that João Felix? Didn't he cost quite a lot?
This is permanent, yeah.
Permanent, right?
Yeah. No,
I was going to say, because he was a rip off him. For them few months he was there. And he was suspended for some of them.
He got suspended in his first 20 minutes or something. He got a red card. What a debut. So you have 5 left to go. And I'll tell you that 2 of them are Manchester United. 1 of them is Liverpool. 1 of them is Chelsea. And 1 of them is Arsenal.
Are these people who are currently playing there or previous as well? Previous in the Premier League? 3
of them currently still play in the Premier League.
Is Alexis Sanchez one?
No.
No, was he quite cheap?
They're all still playing. They're all of the recent era, but only 3 are still currently playing in the Premier League. So we'll go to the chat, see if they've got any. Kai Havertz, no, not Kai Havertz. Casemiro, no, 65. He just missed the list, I think, Lisa. Rice hasn't moved yet, so he's not on the list. And Simon says, no, not Fernandez. I can't remember how much Fernandez was. I think he was about 60 from memory.
Salah, much was Nunes? Nunes, yeah.
He's not on the list, no.
Oh, it was a bit though, weren't it?
That must be the old add-ons thing you see again, because he should possibly be in there, the numbers that was talking. But no, Liverpool person is not Darwin Nunes. He went for a record fee in that position before Harry Maguire.
Virgil.
There you
Virgil
go.
Van Dijk.
Virgil van Dijk, yeah, he is 8. Southampton's Liverpool, £75 million.
Trying to think of the Man United ones. Varane, maybe?
In a Chelsea, isn't it?
Varane was cheap. One of the Man United ones was last season.
Eriksen, no, he went on a free.
He was a free. Lisa says, no, not Firmino. I think Firmino was cheap. I think they got Firmino for like 15 million from Hoffenheim or something. Firmino was a really good.
Oh, Martinez. Was Martinez one? No.
Should have been. Little legend. But
he's
not.
A legend, to be fair.
I think of these United players is tough.
Yeah, I think.
It's last season as well. Oh God.
Anthony's one of them. Yep, Anthony, 82.2 million apparently as well.
Wow.
That price just went up and up and up. That one did.
What was Luke Shaw? Was he a bit? Was it not Luke Shaw?
No. This one was somebody who went and came back and has now gone again. Big fan of the social media. Graham Souness's favourite ever player in the Premier League.
Pogba.
Paul Pogba, yes.
Forgot about him.
89 million he came with a Stormzy video and everything alongside it to join. 89 million. Paul Pogba, Juventus to Manchester United.
So it's a Chelsea one now, isn't it?
It's the Chelsea one and the Arsenal one.
Oh, Arsenal, sorry, as well.
Yeah. So yeah, Heather had Pogba there as well. Yeah, Pogba. And Lisa's got one, not Ronaldo, but Ronaldo. Neither of them. It wasn't either of them. Ronaldo came out in fairly cheap. He left for a decent price, but
Not Odegaard.
not Odegaard. No. This guy is still on their books. At the minute. Heather's got a. I think Heather's got a sniff of what that is. I think you can see it, Shah.
Abon Lahore.
No.
He's gone on to.
No. I'll bring it
Not
up.
Abon Lahore. Aubameyang, man.
No, not banging it. I was thinking of Bungalow.
I know. I was like Aubameyang.
Yeah.
What an idiot. A.
I'll bring it up. Heather said beginning with A, and she's also said what the answer is, but I'll pick that one up.
Trying to think of Arsenal players.
I'm trying to think of Arsenal players.
Go on then. I'll give you the Chelsea one because Heather's got it, I think. Kepa Arrizabalaga.
Oh, yeah.
72 million. Yeah.
Oh, the Arsenal one's going to really
Simon
annoy
says
me.
Xhaka. No, it's not Granit Xhaka. No, not Granit Xhaka.
Does it begin with an A, like Heather said?
Oh, Aaron
No, that was
Ramsdale.
the Chelsea goalkeeper. No, that's it.
Oh, was
That was linked to the Chelsea one. That's not
Right.
Aaron Ramsdale. No. So this
I'm
guy
thinking
was
about-
not. He's on their books, but didn't play for them last season.
What nationality is he? Do you know? Are we allowed a clue?
He is, I think, Ivory Coast.
Oh, Nicolas Pepe.
Nicolas Pepe. Yep, Lisa's got
Oh,
it there. Nicolas Pepe, 72 million. He's one that the rumour they're trying to get rid of. I can't remember where. He might have been back at Lille last season on loan, I think.
Yeah.
That's where he came from. So, yeah, that is the top 11 Premier League ones. And we'll have a very quick, so I've got the top 10 highest world transfers, but a lot of them are the same as the Premier League ones. So you've already got Pogba at 10, you've got Lukaku at 8, Grealish at 7, Fernandes at 4. So there are 6 other highest world transfer fees outside of the Premier League. One of them does involve a player from the Premier League, but all of these are going to European teams.
Neymar.
Neymar is number 1. Yep, 222 million euros apparently. I mean, how long this list is going to be with Saudi Arabian teams making bids? This might have changed in the last 20 minutes. Who knows?
Bellingham. Does Bellingham count?
Bellingham just missed the list. He did. Just missed the list. This is Messi. No, not Messi. He went for PSG. Was fairly cheap, wasn't it?
How much was Gareth Bale?
No, it's not
Was he
Bale.
cheap?
No. Compared to some on the list, yeah.
Was Hazard? No.
No,
Was
it's
he?
not Eden Hazard. No.
I'm just trying to think of Real Madrid because they spend
Same.
loads in Barcelona.
Funnily enough, none of the teams on this list are Real Madrid, which surprised me.
A Barcelona on it.
Barcelona on it.
Yeah.
Barcelona feature 3 times, and Paris Saint-Germain feature 1 more time.
Was Mbappe weren't that much, was it?
Mbappe,
Oh, was it? Was he on it?
Yeah, Mbappe 2 from Monaco to PSG, 145 million euros plus 35 million of add-ons, apparently.
Wow.
Big fee. So you've got 3 Barcelona, and an Atletico Madrid. Well, not Ronaldinho. No, not Ronaldinho.
Felix to
João
Atletico.
Felix, yep, spot on.
Yeah.
Benfica to Atletico Madrid, 126 million euros. Simon says Jules Koundé. No, not Jules Koundé either. One of them came from the Premier League. Now
Premier League to
plays,
Barca.
and now plays back in the Premier League.
Trying to think of these Barcelona players.
The Barca ones are tricky. One of them's still playing there.
Oh, who was he called for Liverpool? He plays for Villa now. Is it him?
Coutinho.
Spot
Yes,
on. Yeah,
that's
Philippe
the one. I couldn't think
Coutinho.
of his name.
That's the one. Philippe Coutinho. Liverpool to Barcelona, 120 million euros plus 40 million euros of add-ons for
Is he
Philippe
still
Coutinho,
at Aston
number
Villa?
5. He is, yeah.
Yeah.
He is still there, yeah. He was one of the Gerrard era, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So there's 2 left. One, okay, I'll give you a clue. One was a La Liga transfer, Atletico to Barcelona, and the other went from Borussia Dortmund.
Griezmann?
Antoine Griezmann, yep, he was 6. Atletico to Barcelona, 120
Lewandowski?
million euros. No,
Oh
not
no,
Lewandowski.
he was at Bayern. He was at Bayern.
Yeah.
Hakimi?
Not Hakimi, no.
Did you say Dortmund?
Dortmund to Barcelona.
Dortmund to Barcelona.
Oh, what's he called? Oh, this is going to annoy me now. It's going to really annoy me.
Who did they sign from? I'm trying to think who they signed from Dortmund.
It was a big, kind of a left field. Kind of left field. He was a rated youngster, a wonder kid, as we would say.
I should definitely know this. Then. This is terrible.
You should know your wonder kid.
Yeah, Dortmund wonder kid. What position does he play?
He is a wide forward, shall we say?
Okay. Oh, Dembele.
Ousmane Dembele.
Yeah.
Dembele, 105 million as well for Ousmane Dembele. Yep. That says Lukaku again. No. maybe that's the next move. Who knows? To the Liga for big money. Dembele, 105 million. So excellent. Got all of those. Now, what I have to finish, almost to finish things off, is I have 10 questions, 5 each here in a transfer quiz, but it's multiple choice. I've helped you out with this one, so
I'll still get them all wrong.
This is transfers from the past that we have with options. So, Billy, as our guest, will let you go first. You can begin with this one. It's like a penalty shootout. I have no sudden death questions, so it will be a draw if you get the same. So, which of these Brazilian players has not played for Middlesbrough? Emerson, Fabio Rockenbach, Mirandinha, and Juninho.
Mirandinha.
Mirandinha, correct. He played for Newcastle back in 1987. There you go, 1 on the board. Straight in. Right, you're up next, Shah. Are you ready?
Oh, no.
In the 2016-17 season, James Maddison had a spell on loan with which Scottish club?
Oh.
Was it Motherwell, Aberdeen, Hearts, or Inverness?
I don't know. Aberdeen.
Aberdeen, correct.
Yay! That was a guess.
Steam that one in. It's a deflected equaliser, but they all count, as they say. They all count. Right, next up for you, Billy, we have in 2020, Crystal Palace signed Eberechi Eze from which club? Is it A, Barnet, B, Celtic, C, Brentford, or D, QPR?
QPR.
QPR's correct. Yep, 2-1 there. It was. He moved from QPR.
I know.
I've just this next one. I've got to apologise for this one because this one is harsh. And I wrote the answers down earlier and I still couldn't remember, so it's a good job I put it in bold. But in what year did Leicester City sign Kasper Schmeichel from Leeds United? I've also written Peter Schmeichel here as well, so I've had a cracker with this question. Was it A, 2013, B, 2009, C, 2011, or D, 2015?
2011?
2011, correct. Yeah, 2-2. 2-2, Kasper Schmeichel in the bag. Right, next up we have, this one is for you, Billy. He's one of your ex-players, actually. In 2010, Egyptian striker Mido, remember him?
Oh, yes!
Yep. Yeah.
Remember him? Was signed on loan by West Ham from which club? Was it Middlesbrough, Tottenham, Everton, or Al Sadd?
Oh, could you repeat the options again? Sorry.
So you've got Middlesbrough, Tottenham, Everton, or Al Sadd.
Can I go Middlesbrough?
Middlesbrough is correct. It was
I
Middlesbrough.
thought, yeah.
Yeah. He was on loan from Middlesbrough.
I actually knew that one.
You have an Arsenal question, Char.
Oh,
an Arsenal
God.
question. In 2011, Arsenal signed 4 players on the last day of the transfer window. But which of these didn't they sign? Was it A. Andre Arshavin, B. Per Mertesacker, C. Yossi Benayoun, or D. Mikel Arteta? So they signed them all, but not on that day, the last day of the window. They made triple signing.
What
on the
year
last
was it,
day.
sorry?
2011.
Oh. Gonna go with Arshavin.
It is Andre Arshavin, yeah. Sweet. As I said, this is some excellent penalties here. No one's missed up at all. Andre Arshavin, everything's in the back of the net. Right, now it's tense time. Now it is tense time. Right, so Billy, Robert Lewandowski famously almost signed for Big Sam and Blackburn Rovers in 2010. But what scuppered the deal? Was it an earthquake, a volcano, a tsunami, or a mudslide?
It was the very famous Icelandic volcano.
It was
ruined
the
everyone's summer
volcano.
holiday.
It did. I mean, what a different landscape that would have been if he'd have brought Lewandowski to the Premier League in 2010.
Yeah.
It was a volcano. That is correct. And Arsenal again. I've laid you up with Arsenal, Shah.
Did you think Lucas were coming on?
Who did Arsenal sign Takahiro Tomiyasu from for 16 million in August 2021? Was it A. Grampus 8, B. Lausanne Sport, C. KV Oostende, or D. Bologna?
I don't know. I'm gonna go with D.
It is. It's D. It's Bologna.
It's because it reminds me of spaghetti bolognese. I say it every time. I'm a big fan.
I love your club because I like spaghetti bolognese. They all count. They all count. So it's 4-4. We get to that. This is the final question. It's the final question. From which club? This is for Billy. For which club did Burnley sign Chris Wood in 2017? Was it A. Millwall, B. Leeds United, C. West Bromwich Albion, or D. Leicester City?
It's either Leeds or Leicester. I know he was at Leicester as a kid, so I'm gonna go for Leeds.
You are correct. It was Leeds United. He did. He moved from Leeds United. Very good. 5 out of 5. Well done. And the final question. Shah, upon signing for Tottenham in 2017, which centre-back cost the club a record £42 million at the time? Was it A. Davinson Sanchez, B. Toby Alderweireld, C. Jan Vertonghen, or D. Eric Dyer? 2017.
I'm hoping it's not Eric Dyer anyway. Oh, can you say him again, please? I forgot what order.
Davinson Sanchez, Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen, and Eric Dyer.
Oh, there's 2 I'm torn between. I'm going to be well upset if I get this one wrong. I'm going to go... Oh. I'm going to go for Vertonghen.
Vertonghen.
It's the other one, innit?
Who was your other choice?
Alderweireld, whatever he's called.
You're right, because it was neither of those. It was.
Oh, was it? Thank God. As long as it weren't Eric Dyer, I'm happy losing. As long as Tottenham didn't spend that money on Eric Dyer.
I can live with that. Live with that. Well, excellent. Billy won 5-4, but well done, both of you. There were some tricky questions there. That's a very high score for the quiz. And just a final before we leave, I've got some transfer stories, 5 transfer deadline day stories, which I found from the internet. Some crazy transfer days. You may remember some of these, but if not, I'll read them out anyway. So we had Diafra Sakho tried to force a transfer from West Ham to French club Rennes in 2017 to undergo a medical, even though he didn't have permission from West Ham or guarantee that he was being sold. On the same day, he missed a training session when he returned. And then instead of meeting with the club, he went to Cheltenham Racecourse, where he won £500 on a bet on his agent's horse. He then turned up to meet with the club, and the big bosses weren't there anymore, so he had to wait to the next transfer window to move. So, not a great transfer deadline day for Diafra Sakho.
I remember that happening.
That was a classic. This one was a very well-known one, but in 2015, David De Gea was heavily linked with Real Madrid all summer. It was back and forth, went all the way down to the wire. A deadline deal with Keylor Navas coming the other way from Real Madrid was agreed to Manchester United. Navas was just about to board the plane, but it all fell through at the final minute thanks to what? What did it all fall through to? A dodgy fax machine, which failed to send the paperwork. Rumours of Wayne Rooney unplugging it were completely untrue. That wasn't the case, apparently. Why they were still using a fax machine in 2015 was the other question. But yeah, the fax machine saved it. And there we are 8 years later, David De Gea is still at Manchester United. So that deal did not happen. Another one we'll all remember, another classic. Believing that a deal from West Brom to QPR was very much on in 2013, Peter Odemwingie made 125 miles solo trip
Just quality.
From the West Midlands to West London, hoping to force through a move. There was a slight hitch, though. The Nigerian hadn't been told that his transfer relied upon winger Junior Hoylett agreeing to head in the opposite direction. When that deal fell through, so did Odemwingie's. So he was denied entry to Loftus Road, and it meant that he had to suffer the Sky Sports camera outside because they wouldn't let him in through the gate as the whole mess unfolded. He was then later disciplined by West Bromwich Albion as he sheepishly returned with his tail between his legs to the club and didn't get his move.
That was funny.
Absolute classic. That was when transfer deadline days really did start to kind of add some excitement and juice. Another one is a story that Harry Redknapp tells on Benjani Wari. Remember him? Portsmouth to Manchester City. He made Manchester City sweat for his signature in 2008, only making the medical 45 minutes before the deadline. He'd missed not one but two flights from Southampton to Manchester earlier that day, and the scheduled third was cancelled before he finally made it in the air. Initial reports suggested that he had a lengthy nap in the airport in the afternoon, was responsible for the no-show, although some believe that his sudden bout of lethargy was simply a stalling tactic because he didn't want to move north. Harry Redknapp confirmed that was the case almost a decade later and claimed he literally had to push Benjani onto the plane to get him to go. Absolutely brilliant. And the final one is from a transfer deadline day in Belgium. Didier Lamkelzee, apparently a striker for Royal Antwerp, who was trying to get a move. He wanted to move away from Antwerp. So because the club had said no, he turned up to training that week, the week of the transfer deadline, wearing the kit of their fierce rivals Anderlecht.
Oh, no.
Imagine!
Wind the club up because he no longer wanted to play for the club and hoped to force a move to Panathinaikos.
Oh, no.
And the article that I took it from said, this article described it as a Tesco employee turning up in a Sainsbury's uniform to try and force a move to Asda. That was I mean, I think it worked because I think he got out of there, but that's an incredible way of doing it. And thank God the fans weren't there, or he would have been he would have had to leave the city anyway. Some classic stories. So there we go. And that's it. We've reached the end of the podcast. We've covered so much in terms of transfers. We've done so much today. Thank you so much to Billy for joining. It's been wonderful to have you back on again. And say, if you do want to know more about Billy and you do want to know more about Tottenham Hotspur, then our All About Tottenham Hotspur is still available, of course, on the channel. As with other ones, we did Luton Town last week. That was fantastic to hear about them. Very exciting, passionate talk about Luton Town coming to the Premier League. And we have much more coming on through the summer, so keep an eye on the socials in terms of what we're doing. But Charlotte, where can people find you on the social media side of things?
Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, I'm SharXHarryFC. And if you want to keep up to date on my Her Game 2 stuff, it's Rochdale HGT on all the same socials. And obviously here as well. We're always here, aren't we, Sam?
Always here.
We're always here.
Some way or another, we will be here. And Lisa says, thank you, guys, for this. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate everybody in the chat. Thank you so much. You make the show so much fun by being here with us. And Billy, where can everybody find you as well?
on YouTube and on TikTok as Hold My Heim. I do Football Manager content and some Spurs rants as well. So I'm sure you'll see plenty of those during the transfer window.
Magic, I'm sure you will. I'm Up the Effing Ducks on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. Have a website, uptheeffingducks.com, and I will be doing some stuff on my channel at some point in the future. But I'm doing too many podcasts at the minute, so the reality is that time. So you'll probably see me most often here on the Absolute Football Podcast. This is where I live. This is what I do. And of course, if you don't know where we all are on the podcast, and surely you should by now, and I've added a new one because I always get told off for not putting the Facebook on. Chris is always telling us to put the Facebook on, so I have. We are found on Twitter at Absolute Ball Pod, on TikTok at Absolute Football Pod, Instagram Absolute Football Podcast _, and on Facebook search for the Absolute Football Podcast, where we're putting lots of stuff up. And Shah's done some great work on getting that all set up last week, so all of our things are now on there. So that is absolutely fantastic, which is great. Thank you, Heather, as well. It's been a pleasure as always, guys. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Simon. Thank you to everybody who's been in the chat. We've really enjoyed it. Keep it going. And hopefully we'll have some more fun transfers for you next week. But until then, take care and see you next time.